People sometimes ask me, what would G.K. Chesterton have said about the Common Core? And you have to understand, I don't put words in Chesterton's mouth, he puts words in my mouth. However, this is what he would say. He'd say it's not common and it's not the core. But I'll tell you what he did say. In 1927, he gave a talk title. But the title of the talk is this: Culture and the Coming Peril. He said, the evil that I'm trying to warn you about is not excessive democracy, it's not excessive ugliness, it's not even excessive anarchy. It is this. It is standardization by a low standard. I've told you the problem. I've told you what's wrong with the world. Now I'll tell you what we did about it when we started Chesterton Academy. Our approach was going to be, we're going to adopt a classical model, which means truth, beauty, and goodness. Those three ideas are applied to everything we teach. So is it true, is it good, and is it beautiful? The incarnation was going to be the center of our education so that it was going to inform everything we taught. We were going to start the day with Mass, daily Mass. All the teachers would take an oath of fidelity to the magisterium, and we were going to teach a Catholic view of literature, of history, of art, and even of science and math. And also connect these subjects to each other so that what you're studying in history is connected to what you're studying in literature, and that what you're studying in philosophy is connected to what you're studying in math. Because they're both about the art of reason and clear thinking. We teach 4 years of philosophy, starting with Plato, Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas. By their junior year, they're reading Thomas Aquinas. And so then when they're exposed to the modern philosophers in 12th grade, they can see what's wrong with each of those modern philosophers. But you have to give them the grounding first. Obviously, when they go to college, they'll probably start with Nietzsche in college, right? They'll start with a madman who was probably one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century. And he was completely barking mad. So once they learned logic and how to identify a fallacy, they become good arguers. In fact, our dinner table conversations are really obnoxious sometimes because these kids, they won't back down. And they're always pointing out a fallacious argument I might have. You know, when I say, hey, it's true because I said so, that doesn't work for them. That's an argument from authority, doesn't work. Yeah, all right, okay, well, let's come up with another one. You know, we have the little whiteboard on our refrigerator where we do the grocery list and stuff. They get up there and erase that, and they're doing equations on there, and they're showing how, you know, if X is like Y, that means Y is like X too. And then, you know, and they're using good arguments. They learned how to argue well. We have to learn how to combine those good arguments with charity. So we study literature and history because, well, history is the story of salvation. Literature is man's retelling of the story of salvation. Every great novel, as Chesterton points out, is really telling the story of St. George and the Dragon. In every story you have to have a thing that has to be fought, the dragon. You have to have a thing that is loved, the princess. And you have to have the thing that loves and fights, St. George. And if you have fighting without loving, or if you have loving without fighting, it's lust. If you have fighting without loving, loving without fighting is lust. Right? Yeah, loving without fighting is lust. And fighting without loving is simply, well, dangerous horseplay, as Chesterton says. All right, so we teach 4 years of math, but the first thing we teach in math is Euclid. Because Euclid just shows you how to solve a problem. And that's, you know, math is about solving problems. And once you get, and that's going to help you in philosophy too. And then in in science, there's a connection to art, because art and science are both about, well, they're both about creation, aren't they? I mean, science, we're studying God's creation. We're studying the mind of God. What a different attitude than studying some material laws. Of course, we study the scientific laws, but what we're studying is God's handiwork. And when we study art, well, then we're recreating. We are doing what God does. We're creating things. Because when God made us in His image, He made us creators. And both art and science are about observation and about studying proportion and design, and you certainly are studying beauty when you're studying both. But in the modern education system, art and science have been separated from each other completely. And so if a student starts showing any artistic bent at all, they just don't teach them science anymore. And vice versa. If someone has a leaning towards the sciences, they stop taking the humanities, they stop studying art, and they become very narrow and very disproportionate in their thinking. They just become incomplete thinkers. My son, who graduated from Chesterton, is studying engineering now at the University of Minnesota. In his class, he had two of his classmates, all three of them went into engineering. And they were all studying the humanities at Chesterton. I mean, that's what they were really strong in. But they understood the wholeness of thinking, and the engineering schools that they applied to were very excited to accept it because they want more well-rounded engineers. Like you know the story about the lawyer and the doctor and the engineer that were out golfing together, right? And they were just so irritated because the foursome in front of them was just taking such a long time to golf, and they're just getting really upset. And finally, they go and they complain to the manager of the golf course, and they say, what's with these guys in front of us? They're taking so long. Can't you do something about that? And the manager says, well, they're four firemen who were blinded in a firefighting accident. Oh, the lawyer says, oh man, listen, you tell those guys that if they ever need any legal work at all, come to my office and I'll give them free legal work. And the doctor says, you tell them if they need any medical care at all, come to my clinic, I'll give them free medical. And the engineer says, why can't they golf at night? That's a true story. All right, so we teach Latin. There is a bizarre connection with students who do well in Latin also excel in math. And you wouldn't put those two together because the modern world doesn't. As Chesterton says once again, the modern world, we have simply separated everything from everything else. He says the world is one wild divorce court, especially in our education system. We've just separated all the subjects and nobody sees how anything's connected. Latin and math are connected because they are both very orderly. And young people, especially young men, are thrilled when they find out that their thoughts can be ordered. And they just take to that right away. It just quenches their thirst when they find out that their thoughts can be ordered. And then, of course, by studying Latin, well, they're prepared for whatever else that they're going to study. If you're going to go into law or medicine, you got to have Latin. You understand your own language better when you study a foreign language, especially Latin, because 60% of English is based on Latin. What we do at Chesterton is they have the option of continuing with Latin for 4 years, or at their junior year, they have the option of taking either Spanish or Italian. What they also do in Latin class, they learn Gregorian chant. But we have Latin chant at each of the daily masses. The girls will chant during the offertory, and the boys will chant during communion. And then, of course, we study the arts. I was talking about art. We do the graphic arts so that they start learning how to draw their freshman year. By their senior year, they're copying oil masterpieces. 4 years of art, 4 years of music. So they learn not only music history, but they learn how to sing. The entire school is a choir. We have required drama as well. My wife runs the drama department. And she says that drama is the most Christian of all the arts, because drama is about dying to yourself and coming alive as someone that has been created for you to be. It's also one of the greatest forms of teamwork, because when you're putting on a play together, you really start understanding how the body of Christ works, that every role is important. And the eye cannot say to the hand, because I am not a hand, I'm not going to be part of this body. The smallest role is important. The whole body suffers if that role isn't well done. But the classes really bond when they put on a play. And it's the best thing in the world, because they learn how to be confident, they learn how to express themselves, and they have just that wonderful creative experience. Chesterton says the Iliad is important because all of life is a journey. The Odyssey is important because all of life is a journey. Iliad's a battle. All of life is a battle. Odyssey, because all of life is a journey. The book of Job is important because all of life is a riddle. And that's why you study the classics. You are studying the great works of literature that are always true. And they continue to be true across the ages. And the kids have great discussions about these great works. We study Dante, we study Shakespeare. Senior year, they read The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, and it all just comes together. It all comes together. We form really well-formed, joyful students that want to go out and evangelize, and they want to do something for the world. In our just 11 years of existence, we've sent 8 young men to seminary. And one just joined the religious life this last year, too. They've been going to the colleges of their choice, but some of them don't go to college. Some of them are ready to take on a trade, and they've already had an education that's better than almost any college they could go to today. They come out of there complete thinkers, with an appreciation of good literature, good thinking, good writing, and they're ready to work. They're ready to take on a trade. In the short time that we've existed, people have come to us and wanting to start other Chesterton academies. And there's 15 of them now in the US, and there's one in Canada and one in Italy. And we are absolutely thrilled to be part of really helping change the culture. And it's got to be from the ground up, because there are no top-down solutions. And we're fighting a battle with the entire world. We have absolutely everyone against us. But as G.K. Chesterton says, a dead thing goes with the stream, only a living thing can go against it. And that's what we have to be. And it's a great joy to do it. If we're going to fight, we're going to fight happily. And I absolutely have the great privilege of going around the country and meeting people just like yourselves who are fighting the same battle. And it's just great how we can all encourage each other. And so you are not alone. And there's people all around the country just like you, fighting the same battles. And together we form a network. Take some questions, but I'll give you one more Chesterton quote on education here. Insofar as the citizens of Western democracy have really gone wrong, they've not inherently or quite unnaturally gone wrong. They have been taught wrong, instructed wrong, educated wrong, exalted and uplifted wrong. We need to fix education, and it starts here and now with us. God bless you, and thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.